You're listening to Tarazi Tuesdays with the Bible as Literature.
Hi, this is Father Mark Boulos, and you are listening to Tarazi Tuesdays with the Bible as Literature podcast. This week, Father Paul notes that the commonly used expression, the original text, is misleading, since there is only one text, which, in fact, is the original. I am delighted to introduce Father Paul on the Bible as Literature podcast, Tarazi Tuesdays.
And here I want to show you another example where it is impossible to do it in translation. Notice, after Israel saw the great work, which I said is the hand of God, and you have the people here. I can see without seeing him, because I'm reading my text, Richard Benton nodding and possibly smiling, because in the Hebrew, and Israel saw its wayar, and the people feared is wayaru. Now, the first yar, I mean, it sounds, but you don't hear the aleph, but you have a yod, resh, aleph, without entering into how this is the way it is, because it will be difficult for most of you, those who don't know Hebrew, to follow. But you're seeing, one more time, you have consonants. You have a waw, yod, resh, aleph. Then you have waw, yod, resh, aleph, and then nu at the end, because it's the plural. So technically, you have these four letters, waw, yod, resh, aleph. It's the same four letters. But the first one means, and he, which is Israel, saw, and the second one, the people feared. But you don't hear and you don't see this in English. In other words, you are hearing and reading a different text because you miss the play. Here the play is that when God does something, even for you, you should fear him. Another, I love you, God the Almighty. Ah. The head of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And that is already in the text. Forget about original. There is only one text, which is the origin. And if you don't trust me on this, ask Benton and Roddy. That's what you're seeing. The reader is seeing the same sequence of consonants that in the first instance it's the verb to see, in the second instance is the verb yare, which is to think. But one more time, it's not, you see, it's different verbs. One is the other is yare. I know that. But there is a play. Another play which is very important and which is very impressive, according to me, is the play between to return, shub, and yashab, to dwell. It is found in so many places, but especially in Hosea. In other words, if you return to me, I shall make you return in order to dwell. But again, in Hebrew, you have a play where technically you are reading the same sequence of consonants. Now, how are you going to render this in translation? It is impossible. And this is what is the basis of eisegesis. You capture what you refer to as the thought, which means the thought which is in your mind, which is your interpretation. And then you slam it back into the text. That's what theology does. Whereas, and I keep stressing this time and again, you have to understand through your ears, not your mind. Because understanding your mind, you can project things as Plato did. But in Scripture, you first start with not facts. So here again, Scripture is not science. Science begins with facts. That's thank God, because without science, Plato would have ruled us day and night. But he doesn't have the last word because of science. And many scholars said that Plato delayed the development of science by 1,000 years, because everybody philosophizes. You know how people in North America, every teenager is already a psychologist. They decide and they think and they assess and so on. So why do you have psychologists? No, you have to hear in Scripture. There are no facts. You have it in the story that up till now people are debating science and Scripture. Is it not? And so on. How do you read Genesis 1? You don't read Genesis 1. You hear Genesis 1, and the author tells you that it's 6 days, and on the seventh God rested. That's what the author is saying. Why? If you can't get it at first reading of Genesis 1, just wait. And you will hear it soon about the seventh day, where you have to stop everything in order to hear the words of God. And that's a good example, because my conclusion is that you may not hear Genesis chapter 1 except on the Sabbath when it is read to you. I know my hearers don't like me because they are going to point out that, Father Paul, this is not what you do on Sunday. You go to church and you do your commentaries during the week. Yes, but I do my commentaries when I'm reading the Hebrew by positioning myself on the Sabbath day. See my twist? That's the difference between you and me. I do all my work on the Bible on the biblical Sabbath day, whereas you do some on Monday and some on Tuesday and some on Wednesday. And that's vain talk. Because in the Bible, as we shall see, God speaks in the law on the Sabbath. Okay? Make note of that. Now, I know why you don't make note, because you know Father Paul is going to repeat it in a couple of weeks. Well, maybe, I don't know. That's what I want you to do, to hear the Scripture and to plagiarize Paul. Kathos regrapti, as it has been written, and not as you comprehend it. as in this silly fad of postmodernism, that the text is done and is brought to life when I read it for myself and give my understanding. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But that's what you all do. And fortunately for me, and I want to keep doing this until I die and start changing after I die, so that I would not give glory to myself that I was able to change your mind. I don't want that. I want that your mind be changed one day. Okay? Now, I can see some kind of sadness on the faces of Richard and Father Mark, and I'm going to make them happy by saying, even without realizing, they decided to have the tapings of my sessions on the Sabbath. Look, you can't see their faces, but we're on Zoom here and I can see it. But don't be proud. Don't be proud. But we do. So tell the people that the podcasts are released on Tuesday, just before midnight. But they are done on the Sabbath. Okay? And don't you edit that part, Father Mark. Leave it on the tape. Okay? Have a nice Sabbath and have a blessed New Year. In your honor, I decided not to shave this morning because both of you have beards. Okay, buddy.
The Bible as Literature is a production of the Ephesus School Network.